We're back. It's another episode of Good Mom. I'm Sunny, and I'm here with my friend Lindsay.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Yay.
Yes. So we like to get together and talk about some of the things that are happening in our lives because every day you learn something new. I think that phrase is really true. Lindsay, I didn't mean to rhyme, by the way. I just rhymed.
I
But
kind of liked it. That was
I
very
kind of
Dr.
liked it
Susie
too.
of you. Very nice.
But you do. You learn something new every if you allow yourself. If you don't let the moment just kind of pass you by, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned this past week, I was having a conversation. I'm out here in Ohio with my two girls, my twin girls, and staying with my parents, and so we're spending a lot of time together, which is great because they live on the opposite side of the country. So it's nice to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And the conversation came up. My mom was actually kind of criticizing some of the children of her friends because in her mind, these kids are constantly harping on their parents.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be a good topic to bring up about when, or is it okay to parent your parents? Is there a time, right?
Yeah.
Where it's more acceptable? Does it depend on the situation? Because again, from my mom's perspective, these kids were way out of line. She was like, and they're adults, like the kids are like in their 50s. Right?
Exactly. Well, that's kind of when it starts to happen.
That's when it starts to happen because you start to care a little bit more physically, if you're available to do this. You start acting more as a caregiver. You might be taking your parents to appointments and things like that, or helping them make medical decisions, all that kind of stuff. And I think it does naturally bring out this caregiver role in people. But my situation, Lindsay, is so different because I live so far away from my parents.
Yeah.
One of the things that dawned on me as my mom was complaining about this is that I don't do that at all with my parents. Not at all, because I've never been in that position to give care to them on a regular basis. So I feel like I'm not as involved. That sounds bad. Like we're a close family, but we just don't live close to each other, if that makes sense.
100%. And it is a little bit easier to get hooked into the parenting your parents role when you live closer. It is because there's so much more interaction and opportunities to see what your parents are doing versus what they're not doing anymore. Right? So I can totally get that. This is a big topic and it's kind of huge. And I have the unique and I think it was a fabulous experience of going through that process with my grandmother and then my mom and my dad, all of them. So, there was a point in each one of their lives where all of a sudden the teeter-totter went from here to here. And I got to be, instead of being the child, I got to be more parent for all three of them in different ways. It is a bit of a challenge when you have, or if you have parents who don't wish to be parented and who develop skill sets of stubbornness and independence and freedom that make any of your suggestions null and void.
It's so true. Yeah.
I had one of the three, shall remain nameless, just one of the three was that way with me. The other two were like, oh yeah, I can see where your point of view might actually be helpful to me. Okay. So I'm putting it out there that can have personalities and the fighter instinct of someone in your life as a parent who says, who are you to tell me what to do? Even though you're not telling them, you're really strongly suggesting in some cases, but they just can't receive, So it's a challenge. And I can see that if you haven't been close in proximity to your parents, how it would be even more challenging because they're not used to it. When you see something now that maybe say your mom needs help with something, whereas 10 years ago, she didn't need help with anything, and when you see it, it's like, oh, should I say something? Should I not say something? So how are you dealing with that?
It's not even a conscious thing that I do because when my mom brought this up and it dawned on me that I don't do that with her, then I started to feel guilty that I don't do that with her because then I thought, do I not care? Why don't I do that with my mom, or my dad, right?
Right, yeah.
But, I have learned so much over the last few years about sovereignty, and I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
where it, maybe this is even on a subconscious level, but
Mm-hmm.
I do feel, because I'm dealing with this with my own children, when
Yes.
is the time to allow them, and at what point, and every situation's a little bit different, to
Yeah.
allow them to make their own sovereign choices, even though it's not something that you think is in their best interest, right?
Absolutely. Oh, these are
Because
tough. Yeah.
these are tough
Mm-hmm.
situations, but sometimes it's in those difficult situations that the most growing and learning happens, and that's what you're here to do. So
Yeah.
who am I, if you don't want to go to the gym and you want to gain a bunch of weight,
Yeah. Go for
who
it.
am I to say that that is a bad thing for you? It may not be the best thing for your health, but
Mm-hmm.
what lesson, is your soul trying to get out of this? Who am I to say that you shouldn't have that experience?
That is so spot on, Sunny. And I want to repeat that again for our audience. Like, really stepping into the role of mom who lets their children
Mm-hmm.
have their own experience is critical.
Yeah.
Because without it, you're trying to make your kids into mini me, like the smaller version of you, and
Yep.
you have to learn as quickly as you can that does not work. It is a
Yep.
recipe for total frustration between you and your child forever, ever. Amen. Now,
Yep.
flip that around to where we were with parents.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a parent that is behaving that way and did so when you were a kid, wanted a mini me, so to speak,
Yeah.
think about how that felt for you and then really take that in so you can stop the pattern. We, this is another episode we're going to do, but the evolving role of mom
Yep.
is to be one that can consciously stop. I call it stop, drop, and roll. Just stop and really see the situation and recognize that the kid needs to have their experience. It's
Yep.
not about you.
Mm-mm.
Moms, it's really not about you. Their soul's calling, their soul's journey needs whatever it is that they're being called to get in the
Yep.
midst of, including cat fights and whatever else
Mm-hmm.
they're doing.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is, they've got to experience it. And so
Mm-hmm.
now, what about mom and dad? So if mom and dad are going to have an experience of something that we don't like, what do we say or what do we do? So, as an example, I'm going to use my dad. Loved him to pieces. He was my closest person to my heart. I'm sure of it because we just were bonded instantly. And my dad smoked a pack of cigarettes a day from the
Oh
day he was
gosh.
18 years old.
Yep.
And
Yep.
while I never liked it, it was not my thing. It was not fun to have a dad who smoked and had to be leaving and going out to smoke
Yep.
everywhere. I did not make it about me to say, you should stop smoking so you can live longer. I never did. And do you know the level of stress that was reduced in my own life by not taking that on?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I knew dad was going to pass probably earlier than a lot of other people because of his choices, but it was his choice.
Choice.
And you just got to let it go. You have to let them have certain freedom and choices, even as the younger child growing up. You got to let them do their thing.
Yeah,
And
and we had a similar situation with smoking in our house, and it was my mom. My mom would smoke a lot. She was a very cautious, or I guess a very, what's the word? I mean, she was not
mindful, she didn't try to,
mindful.
yeah, she was mindful.
So
Okay.
she, didn't blow smoke in people's faces. She would always
Mhm.
be, go away to do it. She knew it was a, habit that she didn't want to have,
Right.
but quitting that habit is
Yep.
very difficult, right?
So hard.
And my dad, and I watched how my dad dealt with it over the years. And
Mm.
even though my mom knew my dad, would prefer that she not smoke,
Yep.
he never harped on her about it.
It's great.
It was a choice that she made.
Yep.
Everyone knew the health risks. Anytime she went to the doctor, they
Yeah.
explained the health risks. So that's a sovereign choice that
Yep.
she was making. My dad and I didn't smoke. And what's interesting is that caused some minor issues in her life, more inconveniences, but
Mhm.
it got to a point where she had some other health issues going on, and she made the decision on her own, pretty much without patches, without anything, to quit. And she did, and she never went back.
Yay. way. That's so cool.
But that was her choice, like we can't be like, sometimes the more it's like, as a child, when your parents are like, clean your room, do that. Yeah. The more you harp on someone, right? Sometimes you just push them away. It doesn't work. So, it's all good to, send them love, good energy, all that, and hope for things. But that kind of confrontation, like you said, in your situation, like your life, it would have caused so much more strife for you to be against that than just to love on that person for who they are.
Correct. And that's the critical piece. We really have to love on the person for who they are and let them have their own journey. I recall a time with my mom that was really kind of fun. Later in her life, she was in her 70s already, and there was a particular instance that came up, and all I asked was a simple question. It was a question like this. So what about that activity really works for you? Okay, that seems pretty benign, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And in her mind, I was questioning her very beingness. Like, how dare you question, and why are you using this psycho mumbo jumbo on me? And I went, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to understand why you enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't resonate for me. Like, I had no interest whatsoever.
Right.
I'm legitimately trying to get curious and understand. And in her mind, I was like questioning her very beingness. But I stayed with it.
Yeah.
And just kept listening. Like, tell me more. Tell me more about that. What is it about it? And it finally came down to, it was a part of her that just needed to be connected to nature in a different way than I wanted to be, right? And I went, Mom, that's so cool. I didn't really know that about you. But can you see why it was okay for me to get curious? So I think when we're parenting our parents, curiosity can be your friend.
Yeah.
Just get curious about, well, what is it about that you really like? Because that's when they can start to question it. Some people don't like to question themselves at all.
Because it stirs up things that they don't want to deal with, right? And we all do it. Like,
we all do it
about various things in life. Some are more serious than others or whatever. But who wants to bring up stuff that you feel awkward about or don't know how to handle? Like, nobody wants to talk about that kind of stuff, right?
Very
so you
seldom.
Just push it to the side. But what's interesting is, on a subconscious level, they feel like they need that for some reason. And it's usually to fill some sort of void, whatever it is, right?
Right.
But again, it's a journey that they've got to figure out. You could say it till you're blue in the face. You could recognize it and be like, oh, this is a crutch for you because this happened a long time ago, XYZ. Why can't you just fix it? It's like, that's... Don't do that.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
I know it doesn't. Oh, that's great. That's really great. I think parents do get to a place, and I can say for the three, my grandmother and two other parents that I've had to, work with through their transition to the other side.
Yeah.
They do reach a place where they realize they need you to tell them either what to do or to handle something or to take care of whatever they need in that moment.
Yeah.
They're just really, they recognize it. And when that occurs and that tilt happens, the worst thing we can do is abandon them at that point.
Right.
So you can look at it like, my parents love me enough and trust me enough to be their caregiver at the end of life, such that they know that bond is unbreakable, and so I think that's the key conversation to have. I'm having it now with my kids. I'm almost 60, they're almost 30, and I'm saying to them, guys, there's gonna come a time where I need you. Like, this is just how it's gonna be, and I'm gonna be the biggest blithering idiot on the planet, and you're gonna have to be the one who comes to help me with whatever it is that I'm incapable or not able to figure out anymore. And it won't be reprogramming the VCR. It's gonna be much bigger than that.
If you have a VCR by that time, holy cow.
If I had a VCR, I don't think I have one now, but that is kind of a joke in the family. It's like, they can reprogram everything and I can't do anything. Like,
so true.
But it is important to recognize as the parent when that time comes too.
Yes.
When it's okay to say it's legitimate for you to come and pay those bills for me because it's not easy for me to do the technology that's required to pay the bills. Like
Yeah, it's true.
I'm looking at all the things with the financial industry and the technology that we have and all this stuff, and there's going to soon come a day where I am outstripped. Like
Yeah.
because I didn't grow up with it in that way. And I was on the cutting edge of technology when I was a kid. So there's just a lot of things. But our kids, they will get to do it. And there will come a time where they know how to do it better than us.
Yeah, that's true.